I'm not a journalism major, just a girl with an opinion. Not too many spoilers. This movie was not that bad considering that I sat through the whole thing in one go. Long story short, it's about, surprise surprise, two girls rivaling in high school. For some reason this is about homecoming. Homecoming, for anyone who doesn't know, and I might even be getting this wrong since it's so insignificant, even though I sat through pep rallies and endured Spirit Week many times, is an event at the start of the school year usually. It's like a reverse prom. It's about school spirit usually. There's a welcome party, if you will, at the start of the school year, instead of prom, which is a send-off party at the end. These girls, Whitney versus Natasha, have their own long history of personal issues that are typical with Lifetime movies, and actually that are typical of many American high school girls sadly. One is presented as poor, battling drugs and from an ethnic background, yet Lifetime keeps weirdly almost blatantly screwing up their own premise per movie by doing horrible casting, and giving the people who are supposed to be struggling either a oxymoronically beautiful home, or a ridiculous caricature of poverty. Natasha is presented as a girl who has to work for a living, as if she's working class, yet she works at her single mom's classy restaurant. Hardly working class. The single moms for some reason in Lifetime movies are always doing very, very well, which is fine, and not even unrealistic. It's just counterproductive to the point of making someone a single mom presented as working class and who we should feel sorry for and root for in this case, and in other movies, demonize. Normally Lifetime has the single or working class woman who's the villain be the caricature of poverty, living in some squat in a made-up hood, with sirens in the background, rap music bumping, ugly furniture like a cheap hotel, to foreshadow or explain why she's a bad person. Yet when the single and/or working class woman is the tragic hero, they have her living glamorously so we can root for her and like her. Get it together. Anyway, they should have just had Natasha or her mom be a waitress at some cheap local pizzeria, but whatever. And then there's Whitney, who is rich and blonde and a mean girl, Regina type. But obviously she has her struggles, because Lifetime cannot fully demonize the rich white girl since they'd only be demonizing themselves and their own kids, so they give her several sob stories. Oh, my parents divorced. Oh, I'm so pressured to be perfect. Oh, my mom's a whore. Oh, my grandmom's a witch. Granted, her mom is a whore, who slings it around town to get her way. And her grandmom is a witch, a murderous one. And Whitney follows in their footsteps. There's no depth to her at all. It's a basic evil rich bitch story and she deserves no redeeming qualities. She does however kill a drug dealer pretty well, pretty cleverly. Her setup against Natasha was pretty good for a Lifetime movie, pretty lame otherwise. She and Natasha rival each other to be homecoming queen. I'm not rooting for Natasha not just because the actress playing her is annoying, but because Natasha on paper is just so I wasn't necessarily rooting for her, I was just wanting to see how long Whitney can keep this up, to be honest. There are people like both Natasha and Whitney in real life though, they're everywhere actually. Anyone who competes for homecoming queen or prom queen is an immediate no in my book, so it's kinda meh to root for either girl. The Nancy Drew shit at the end was lame and obviously perfect and simple how they smooth-sailed to setting Whitney up. The love interest was unattractive and useless and underused as a plot driver. He was just kind of there. His major moment was reverse image searching. That's how you know Lifetime is staffed by a bunch of boomers and people over 40 years old. They're wowed by reverse image searching, and they think we'd be wowed too. Natasha could have and should have reversed image searched it herself. She's a druggie, not a caveman. Anyway, if you're looking for a light thrill and to pass an hour and a half of time, I rate this a 9 for that reason. All in all, however, I rate it a 4 for diminishing my brain cells. Before we get started, the AI narrator keeps pronouncing the girl's name as Isla. Whatever. Anywho. Next up is He's Not Worth Dying For. Same theme as above, two high school girls fighting over nothing. Except this one is social media, and a boy. Isla is a big influencer. And Grace is an unpopular schoolgirl. They say this is based on a true story, which is salacious and misleading. Based on a true story should only be used if the names and dates are exact. Otherwise it's just inspired by true events, which they should have just said. I watched this because I thought it was exactly a real story, since Lifetime does that, but if you Google high school girl killed over social media and fighting over a boy, we'd be here till Christmas and Rosh Hashanah. I do like that they made Grace black though, and gave her low self-esteem because it's time for people to be honest that social media is not in favor of black girls if they're average and don't twerk wherever they go and wear lace-front wigs and 10-foot eyelashes and nails, and this movie should highlight that you don't need to be like that in life, regardless of if you get a guy to like you or people on social media to like you or not. And that's a good premise for every race, but apparently black women are the least favored on social media and it can be very stressful to be a smart, successful, and pretty person and no one gives you credit for it. But the girl who throws it around on TikTok is able to get her own lavish apartment if not home and she hasn't even graduated high school yet, or at all. I do think that they made Grace almost a little too goody-goody. It was almost like an SNL parody skit how sweet she and her friends were. That might be sad to be so jaded about teen girls that a good girl is annoying but whatever. The girl playing Grace was cute but the casting is still a bit off. There's just no way a guy who looks like Jake would be interested in Grace. Again, that might sound sad that I'm jaded but again, whatever. It's a thing for Lifetime to be out of touch with their casting. I also don't know why they had Isla be a waitress at some diner, when she's a rich influencer. Yes, influencers work part-time, when they're small and not making much. But most content creators live off of content creating. So that was annoyingly confusing. Again, Lifetime out of touch, having people be waitresses as local joints when they shouldn't be, and giving the pretty rich girl a sob story. She is rich, she's an influencer with over 10K followers. That is literally 5 figures and a teen making 5 figures is rich. Anyways. But it's also telling that little old Grace gets Isla so wound up that it comes down to an hour and a half of drama, sabotage, and soon-to-be violence. They're fighting over Jake, some basic guy. Very semi. Clearly disturbed having 2 nice girls fight over him. Deflowering girls as he goes through the day and confusing them. I actually cried at the end of the movie and I never cry, unless it's a holiday movie like Polar Express and those are tears of joy. And I cried at the film Charlotte's Web about the lonely pig. And this happened a couple months ago when I cried at those films and I'm grown but anyway, I cried at this film too because it was just so sad how it all ended up for Grace. The nicest person got it the worst, and I'm just so glad to be out of high school. The acting was okay. The look of the film like the wardrobe and hairstyles were nice-ish. That being said, Grace was desperate and dumb. But girls are like this. I'm sure many girls around the world have lost their virginity or reputation or GPA or career over a guy who ain't shit. Even though the actor playing Jake is cute, very cute. I do think Grace should have went for it and challenged Isla since she's just some bitch off the internet, but some things just ain't for you mamas. There weren't too many flaws with this movie except that it's a basic TV movie about little evil bitches in high school and a dickwad guy at the center of silly drama. I give this a 6 on the scale of enjoying a way to pass the time. It's less so a movie to watch on your own for enjoyment, and more of a good way to watch a film in class or with your mom if you're a minor. I give it an 8 for the film itself. One thing these movies do, though, is either having very non-parenting parents, or over-parenting parents. Grace nearly ran over Isla, could have killed her or herself, with a stolen vehicle, probably no permit or license, but regardless, had the cops come. And her mom just gives a very thespian, melodramatic spiel to her. No wonder Grace ended up how she ended up. So yeah. Thanks for listening, I'll be reviewing loads more films. Asian films, British, French, Lifetime and Tubi movies, short films, web content like TikTok. And YouTube videos? Kind of excited about it. I use an AI voice because I just don't see myself doing all this talking for 10+ minutes straight.